ABC News Town Hall with former Vice President Joe Biden, just 19 days until the election in this country. Of course, voting already underway. More than 18 million Americans have voted. Tonight, as you heard from the vice president there was supposed to be a presidential debate. President Trump pulled out of that debate when the commission wanted a virtual debate after the COVID outbreak at the White House. Joe Biden had agreed to do that instead, then doing the town hall here with ABC. And the president, in a late move this week, agreeing to the town hall and another network, sort of split screen in America tonight. We did hear the president and the vice president get pressed on several topics tonight. The vice president in Philadelphia now talking to those voters, socially distanced in the audience, Republicans, Democrats, and some undecideds. They asked him about the pandemic, whether he'd take a vaccine if ready before year's end. He said yes if the scientists are behind it. He was asked if he would raise taxes on the wealthy and on corporate America, even in a recovery. He said yes. There was a deeply personal exchange, a young voter asking Biden why young black Americans should vote for him. He made his case. He was asked about packing the Supreme Court. And I want to bring in Mary Bruce, who is outside the Constitution Center there in Philadelphia tonight, because, Mary, you and I have been watching all week the confirmation hearing of Judge Amy Coney Barrett, President Trump's pick to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Biden said tonight that it depends on how this is handled, saying Americans are already voting. He was pressed on what that meant, how this was handled. He was pressed, will he have a position on packing the court before Election Day?
David, Joe Biden tonight notably went further on this issue than he has before. He has been pressed on this repeatedly, and while he still isn't giving a clear answer on whether he would expand the court, saying he's, quote, not a fan of court packing, tonight he notably didn't rule it out, saying that he will have a clear answer on this by Election Day after the confirmation hearings for Amy Coney Barrett, saying that Americans have and voters have a right to know. But, David, of course, voting is already well underway. 19 days to go. Nearly 18 million Americans have cast their ballot. So the question tonight is, what is Joe Biden waiting for on this?
And Mary, stick with us on this. He did say he'd have a position before Election Day, and we're looking at live pictures right now, interacting with voters in that debate hall. He was the one who first agreed to doing a town hall after the debate was canceled. This campaign certainly knows that they think these are good opportunities for the vice president to make his case by interacting with American voters.
David, here tonight we saw something that we really haven't seen very often in this campaign that has been upended by the pandemic. Joe Biden having an opportunity to interact directly with voters, answering their questions about what matters most to them as they make this choice. His campaign feels that he shines in these moments, that he does best when he is able to speak directly with voters. I know that Joe Biden misses having more of these opportunities. And I was struck tonight, when you take a step back, how much Joe Biden tonight really talked about his plans. There was a lot of deep diving that he was doing into his policy proposals going forward. This was a night largely about Joe Biden, and actually, surprisingly, not a lot about his opponent. He didn't really speak that much about Donald Trump. This was a night for him, Joe Biden, to connect with voters and talk about how he would be changing their futures.
Yeah, as you rightly point out, Mary, a lot more about policy and plans moving forward than we heard from really either candidate in that first debate after the shouting match sort of erupted and really never ended as that debate played out in front of America. As the vice president continues to talk with voters there, we also know President Trump in Florida tonight pressed in his own town hall on whether he was tested for COVID the day of that first presidential debate. He's pressed a number of times on this. If he took a test on the day of that debate, he said, I probably did, but said he doesn't take a test every day. He was also asked if he was ever warned that this would be the greatest national security threat of his administration, coronavirus, which has been reported that he was warned. He said he wasn't warned, but that he knew it was a big threat. At the same time, the president said, I didn't want to panic this country. I didn't want to go out there and say everyone's going to die. Pressed on whether or not there's a middle ground, whether or not he could have leveled with the American people, he said, no, there's no middle ground. I want to bring in Rachel Scott. She's live with us from Florida tonight where that town hall is playing out, because as we're looking at pictures from Philadelphia, we know the president tonight was pressed on that New York Times reporting on his taxes. Rachel, he was asked if he ever really did pay just $750 in federal income taxes. He was also asked about that reported debt of about $400 million, asked who does he owe that money to?
David, he was asked whether or not he owes that money to foreign entities, and he said, quote, "Not that I know of." The president downplayed the amount of debt that he is in. He seemingly said that it's just a tiny fraction of what he is worth. David, I was struck tonight about how much the president was on defense. The president walked into tonight's town hall, behind double digits in the polls at a time when he is under fire for his handling of the pandemic. And the president tonight spent much of his time on defense, defending his handling of not only the pandemic, issues like health care, as well as the economy. What we did not hear a lot of tonight, just 19 days out from Election Day, was the president talking about his rival, Joe Biden. And the president tonight was forced to confront key questions about his health. Whether or not he tested negative on that debate day is a lingering question. One, the president even said tonight that he could not even remember, could not even recall whether or not he was tested for coronavirus on the day of the debate. The president also tonight, David, downplaying the coronavirus, insisting that we are rounding the corner at a time when the CDC predicts that we may record 240,000 deaths just 1 week after Election Day. David?
Rachel Scott with us from Florida tonight. And Rachel, as she points out, the president being asked, was he tested on that debate night? In stark contrast to the image you're seeing in Philadelphia right now, former Vice President Joe Biden with his mask back on, telling George just a short time ago that he was tested again today, daily testing now, saying he wouldn't want to put anyone in that room at risk, and that he would follow the debate commission's rules, but expect that everyone be tested before that final presidential debate, still scheduled for next week. I want to bring in our chief White House correspondent, Jonathan Karl, watching this split screen in America, as I mentioned, John. Very different answers in both town halls. I'm curious, John, if you saw anything tonight that really moves the needle in any significant way with Americans already voting.
There are so few Americans that are undecided at this point, David. This is such a deeply divided country. But watching these two town halls, and I tried to watch them, if you can imagine, both at the same time, quite a task. And this is such a strange campaign. We have heard very little from either of these two men about what they would actually do over the next 4 years. And Biden has famously dodged this question of expanding the Supreme Court, and George really pushed him on this. And we have what appears to be a commitment that after the Amy Coney Barrett vote, he will tell the American people, he said voters have a right to know where he stands on expanding the court. On the other side, Donald Trump was asked a very simple question by a voter, what is your plan to deal with health care and rising health care costs? And it was abundantly clear that he has absolutely no plan. This is something he has had 4 years, nearly 4 years in office to come up with. He basically said that what he has done is he's done away with the individual mandate with Obamacare, and then talked a little bit more about how Obamacare is not a good thing and we need something better, but absolutely nothing about what he would actually do on health care.
And John, as you've been reporting, he's been saying for a very long time now, I'll have that plan in a couple of weeks, and still no plan.
Still no plan.
John Karl watching both debates. We thank you. We know you were watching the ABC one in front of you while you were trying to watch the one on the other network at the same time, and we sure do appreciate that.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.